Good morning. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with all of you today. I've been waiting for it for 3 years. We had to skip our 2020 and 2021 symposiums because of, you know what? Seeing all of you here today reminds me why we do this work. So thank you for coming. On behalf of my colleagues at the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies, Leila Taragi and Michelle Guillen, I want to officially welcome you to our 9th Annual Center for Peace and Conflict Studies Spring Symposium. My name is Shirin Khosropour. I'm Director of the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies and a Professor of Psychology here at ACC. I'm also an immigrant and a non-native English speaker, and I got my own start at a community college, like many of you. And I'm a huge fan of community colleges. I've been at this one for 25 years. This symposium was born out of a group of students' love of peace and conflict studies in 2012, and we've held it annually since then. The pandemic messed with our plans for a 10-year anniversary, but join us again next year when we plan to bring back the original group of those students, or as many of them as we can round up, for a 10th anniversary celebration. See where they are now and what they're doing, and stay tuned for our 2024 symposium theme to be announced by the end of the semester. This year, the symposium is brought to you with major support from ACC's Division of Science and Engineering. My colleague, Dr. Mark Shepard. Mark, are you here? Oh, there I am. And I'm grateful for their involvement and energy. Also thanks to ACC's Division of Arts and Digital Media, our departments of Dance and Drama, Office of International Programs, my own home department, Department of Psychology, the Art Galleries, Office of Energy and Sustainability, Interpreter Services, and our volunteers, students, colleagues, and community members who are volunteering. And I'm grateful to Faro Coffee. They have fueled us with their delicious coffee over many of our events, and they're here once again this year making up fresh coffee all day long. I encourage you to check out their website and see how, through their Faro Foundation, they give part of their proceeds back to the people of Nicaragua through healthcare, food assistance, education, and elder care. We also appreciate everybody who helped us get the word out. Looking at the range of themes for our symposium over the years, I noticed we started with the basics. What is peace? And then moved to specific areas: gender, children and race, access to food, culture and art, displacement and belonging. And now we're zooming out. We're using the wider lens to look at climate science and climate justice. This is Earthrise, the famous photo of Earth as seen from the moon. The photo is taken from Apollo 8, the first manned mission to the moon in 1968. Earthrise is not the first image of Earth from the moon, but it's special because the picture was taken by humans witnessing it live and directly, frantically snapping photos and helping each other look for color film to load into their camera to take this amazing photo. And thank goodness they found their film in time. There's a really good video on NASA's website that gives you a good sense of what those moments were like inside the capsule. Take a moment, take a deep breath, and notice how you feel when you see our Earth from this perspective. National borders disappear. All borders disappear. The image evokes a feeling of cosmic connection. We're not supposed to be separated from each other by political borders, countries or states and counties or neighborhoods. Earth is a connected system, and any change made to this system has the potential to affect the whole of the planet. Took that deep breath with a bunch of coffee in there, so. Where was I? The command module pilot, Jim Lovell, looking at the photo that they said, "The vast loneliness is awe-inspiring, and it makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth." The feeling we get from Earthrise shows how human perception can shift away from focusing on me and mine to this, what we have on Earth, as Commander Lovell said. So how is it that we can't hold this one planet perspective as we go about living our lives and making choices and making policies? I think this may be where we are today. Despite moments like Earthrise that show us how interconnected all of us Earth's inhabitants are, what is running our world is a view of creature hierarchy that puts us above all other creatures, just below angel beings. But this hasn't always been the dominant story of our planet. Much of the world, for much of its history, has been raised with what's called the kin-centric worldview, centering the idea that we are all kin. Kin meaning family, related. It's a philosophy and set of practices based on knowing that the same life force animates all inhabitants of Earth and binds us as relatives: tree people, bird people, and human people. In the words of Robin Wall Kimmerer, the kin-centric way of being grew from the understanding that we are all linked in webs of reciprocity, where the survival of one depends on the survival of the other. Simultaneously scientific and spiritual, this way of thinking has evolutionary adaptive value in guiding ecological relationships toward mutual flourishing. This concept of caretaking argues that caretaking is an expression of obligations of human kin with our other kin, and that relationality means experiencing the self as a part of others. Today, we've moved away from the kin-centric view to hold, at least implicitly, to the idea of human exceptionalism. And it seemed to have worked for us. We just take from the earth what we want. We don't have to give back. What a great deal. Acknowledging kinship with other beings would mean that we would lose the easy, unearned privilege that enables exploitation. It's a view that our dominant economic arguments, conveniently for us, validate with roots in both capitalistic and colonial systems that require a logic of competition, commodification, and domination. As Kimmerer says, we've been experimenting with laws of nature by putting ourselves alone at the top of the biological hierarchy, living as if a single species out of the millions who inhabit the planet is somehow more deserving. And we've been ignoring the same laws of science that have made exploitation of resources possible. Is endless growth really possible? Science would tell us no. Kimmerer says, what would happen if we behaved as if the earth were nothing more than stuff, a strictly materialistic utilitarian view of the earth, and moreover, all this stuff belonged to us? The results of that experiment are in. We find ourselves teetering on the brink of climate catastrophe, on the cusp of the age of the sixth extinction. Clearly, this is a conflict of values and goals. And speaking of conflict, a little about peace and conflict studies and the connection with climate. When we hear the word conflict, we tend to think of something bad. So one might assume that the goal of conflict studies is to prevent conflicts from occurring. That's partially true, but only for conflict that is violent or in some way harmful. But not all conflict is bad. In fact, conflict is a normal part of all human relationships and can stimulate positive change. For example, conflict between a community and those who want to use its resources can tune us into structural problems and patterns of direct violence that have morphed into accepted cultural norms in the dominant culture. So conflict studies looks at how we can respond to conflict in ways that increase the potential for positive change. Our speakers today will address conflicts that impede our work toward using climate science in reversing damage to the planet. In peace studies, we distinguish between two types of peace. Both are necessary and desirable, negative peace and positive peace. Negative peace is also sometimes called security studies. How do we stop something violent in response to conflict? Stopping violence, like a ceasefire, is part of negative peace. Mandating a reduction in CO2 gases may be negative peace. Stop or reduce active violence against our planet. But negative peace isn't enough to sustain peace. Unless we foster positive peace, harmful conflicts will bubble up again. Positive peace is most similar to the familiar concept of social justice. Peace studies research tells us if we want lasting peace, we need structures in society that go beyond equality. Does the image on the left in this picture seem fair to you? All three people are given equal tools, but one has to stand on tiptoes to reach the fruit, and another can't reach it at all. One of them doesn't even need the tool. The tool just makes it easier for them. For sustainable peace, we need equity, giving each the tools they need. According to data from the United Nations, the impacts of climate change are not and will not be borne equally or fairly between rich and poor, women and men, and other gender-identified humans, older and younger generations, people with different physical, emotional, and cognitive abilities and needs, and in different parts of the world. Climate justice looks at the climate crisis through a human rights lens. What does just peace or social justice look like in a society? How do we know we have it? The discipline of peace studies says that basic human needs must be provided for everyone. Look at these data from the United Nations Water Day report this year. While some of us shower and swim in drinkable water, 2.1 billion people live without safe water at home. Half of the schools in the world have no hand washing facilities. 1 in 4 primary schools have no drinking water. Each day, 700 children under age 5 die from diseases linked to unsafe water and sanitation. So how did their water get so polluted? Looking at climate science from a peace studies perspective, scholars have identified the concept of slow violence. Slow violence is violence that happens gradually and is not necessarily visible. Slow violence is incremental, unlike violences that are spectacular and instantaneous. The key outcomes of slow violence are environmental degradation, long-term pollution, and climate change. Slow violence is also closely linked to environmental racism, and health is inextricably connected with climate science and climate justice. This is the essence of peace and conflict studies. This lens can be applied to any major or profession. Here comes the ad. If you find yourself intrigued and want to learn how you can apply the lens of peace and conflict studies to your own major, students, please connect with one of us. I see at least one of our former graduates is here today, and there are some majors who are here, and we can all talk to you. All right, personal and civic action. Do you recognize the top photo in the left image? I have a signed copy of Earthrise on my living room wall. My late father-in-law, Dr. Alan Dwayne Catterson, was medical director of the team that sent the astronauts to the moon. My grandson did some artwork that reminds me of Earthrise, so that's been on my wall too. I don't think he knows of the family connection, but like all kids, he's tuned into nature and is curious about the world. As a teacher, a mother, and a grandmother, I want to tell the generations that will bear the brunt of climate change, I am so sorry we are leaving this beautiful planet in such a mess for you. When I'm out in nature, sometimes I think about whether my grandchildren's children will get to see these beautiful redwoods or experience Big Bend and its wildlife or have clean water to drink. I try to push those thoughts away. They make me anxious and sad. Research is now looking at the concept of climate anxiety, and we are learning that climate anxiety has a negative correlation with age. So climate anxiety is higher among younger people. So sorry again, young people. What is one antidote to climate anxiety? Data is emerging that social connectedness reduces climate anxiety. So while we aren't leaving our Mother Earth in better shape than we found it, we are living in an exciting time. We know we are on the precipice. The future of our entire planet hangs in the balance. Every one of us matters. We can use our fears and anxieties to fuel personal and collective action. We have to come together and work together. As an eternal optimist and someone who sees the glass almost full, I see the silver lining. We, humans as individuals and as a species, are designed for and thrive in social connectedness. Compassion is built into our biology and psychology, and among our other drives, we have a drive for knowledge and learning. So the silver lining is working together on climate justice meets all of our needs. We can do this. However, personal action is not enough. We need to be thinking about the personal and the systemic. Like me, many of you are here to learn what to do. I saw that in many of your registration responses. We may be frustrated that there are no simple answers. There is no list of things that if we do or don't do makes everything okay. Because the problem lies in longer and entrenched historical, cultural, and systemic patterns. These patterns are changeable, but we must have respect for the slow violence that created them and for the complexity of the issues. And we shouldn't be afraid to look deeply into our own implicit and explicit values and do uncomfortable things. Looking at our beautiful planet, I believe we are coming to a collective understanding that we need to zoom out, shift our perspective out of our conditioned consumerism. Next Saturday is Earth Day, and April is Earth Month. This Earth Day, we will again witness millions of people demonstrating across the world to express our grief for what has already been lost, concern about what we are about to lose, protest the suffering people are enduring because of it, and also learn about and advocate for defending what remains and resolve to defy corporate greed and personal greed. Climate justice demands that we don't limit our conversations, treaties, and policies primarily focused on greenhouse gases and melting ice caps, but also add an equal focus into a civil rights movement with the people and communities that are most vulnerable to climate impacts. I want to thank our esteemed panelists, discussants, and keynote speaker for joining us today. I imagine April is high season for their work, and I'm grateful that they're sharing their time with us. I'm super excited about the artistic contributions of our students and the faculty who supported them, and I'm thrilled that you are here. We worked really hard to create this event for you, and if you didn't show up, it would be very sad. A few logistics. Human needs first. Bathrooms are outside the door, go straight to the hallway, and then turn left. Okay. Program of events, you can see here. There are programs outside. You can get to see the timing of specific things, and there's a big banner too. Our volunteers are wearing t-shirts that say Peace and Conflict Studies, and we would really appreciate your taking a few minutes to complete the evaluation survey today. The address is easy, austincc.edu/peace-survey. And if you are inclined to take pictures and share on social media, please use our hashtag ACCPeace. And like us on Facebook. We are Peace and Conflict Studies at Austin Community College. You had a question? Yes, you can take pictures of everything. Everyone who registered has consented to having their photos taken. All right. I'd like to introduce Andy Kim, Director of the Office of Energy and Sustainability. He will briefly talk about ACC's work to make our operations more sustainable including the zero waste practices we are using today. And he will also highlight next week's events commemorating Earth Day. And thank you, everybody.